Hey there, folks. The showdown between two colossal forces is upon us, finally. Two forces of enormous capital are battling for control and direction of one mighty titan. And on one side, we've got the Iger with the House of Mouse, emphasizing its experienced, not really, and diverse, not all that much, board. And they're focused on and failing at a strategic growth initiative that just hasn't done very much over the course of, well, Iger's second tenure. And they're also focused on something called long-term performance. And I would say focus harder. Now, on the flip side, you've got the proven track record of Trian Partners, who's spearheaded by Nelson Peltz, of course, who's been ruffling some neo-Marxist feathers and proposing a shakeup in Disney's leadership and specifically its boardroom. Let's get ready to crumble! Here we go! So now, both of our gladiators here have submitted some dueling PR letters directed at shareholders of the company. And that happened all yesterday. Now, they are both, or all, taking the field in a very formalized manner at this point. There's a game of chess that's being played here, which I'm going to talk about in a future video, that's going to kind of draw out who the people are in the background and all the little chess pieces that's actually making some moves that could drive some shareholder votes, let's put it that way. The focus here today is on the current spin between these letters and these players, and kind of defining or breaking down the narratives that each are presenting to all of us. So let's start first with Disney's statement. They've put forward that their board's expertise and their focus on strategic growth, as far as their initiatives that they've launched, which, as I said before, don't seem to have worked. They're out there also telling shareholders or reassuring them that their commitment to long-term performance is a way forward. Well, shouldn't it have been the way forward all along? I wouldn't imagine any board that wasn't looking towards the long term from the very beginning, so I think that's a nonsensical idea. Now, I do understand that they have an ongoing decaying situation that they're calling a transformation, all driven by some political garbage. However, as far as Trian goes, they've been quite tight-lipped. They've been playing it cool, ensuring the shareholders know that they are reviewing these proposed nominees thoroughly, which, of course, we know they absolutely won't be. The last thing they want is Peltz and, well, Jay Rasulo in on the board to kind of break down what's actually happening inside the company. And it's important to mention that the Disney board, as it's currently constructed, has less than $16 million total Disney stock. It's not very much. That's not the board supporting the company that they're a board member of. You would think they would all have substantial holdings, right? But then there's this very compelling narrative, a very accurate one coming from Trian Partners. They've entered the scene, of course, with Nelson Peltz, and his guns are absolutely blazing. They're highlighting what they correctly call Disney's chronic underperformance, and that's been true for a long time. It's not going to see the heights that Chapek had it at, over $200 just a few months ago. And of course, this is kind of a throwing down of the gauntlet moment. They've been painting a picture with this letter of Disney's dismal financial performance and their lackluster value creation, which it could be argued they've actually devalued the company substantially. According to Trian, Disney's board is far too cozy because they've been hand-picked all along. And they obviously are buddy-buddy with the long-serving CEO that's in his second tenure, and as I like to affectionately call him, Bounce Back Bob has done very little to promote a forward direction for the company. They also seem to be, according to Trian Partners, not inclined to fall in line with shareholders' interests. And obviously that means there needs to be fresh blood in the boardroom. The clarity of the press release that Trian released is staggering in its simplicity, and the wording makes it quite clear that Disney, from the highest levels of leadership on down to probably somewhere around the parks level, is in big trouble and should be replaced, if not redirected at the very least. Further, Trian's accusations have placed weight on some concrete numbers that can't be argued with. They're throwing jabs, obviously, at the board, claiming the lack of focus, alignment, and accountability. And that's obviously resulted in the company's underperformance over the course of not just the short term, which is obviously something that everybody needs to focus on, but over the long term as well. And they've really underperformed the potential if you look at the market overall. So Trian's nominee candidates are Nelson Peltz, of course, which we've already heard about, but also James Rasulo, also known as Jay Rasulo. And they are geared up to take the reins, pointing to their expertise, which they have some, and track records in driving value creation and operational turnarounds. Let's not forget that Rasulo's long tenure at the company previously had him as, I believe, Chief Financial Officer, or one of the top 3 positions at the company, and he had a pathway forward to the CEO position years ago before Iger swapped him and Staggs in positions for some unknown reason. Of course, they kicked Staggs out later, but that's another story. Maybe we'll talk about that when we talk about the players in the future video. Disney's best, weakest counterpunch is spitting out platitudes. They are solely touting the recent additions to the board, which they say is a step towards greater objectivity. But Trian and myself aren't convinced. They're calling it too little, too late, and I agree. They're emphasizing the absence of shareholder input in these appointments so close to an election when you elect a slate to the board, which I would agree with. And the directors seem overall negligible in stock ownership, as I mentioned before, with so little in holdings. Now, there's also an introduction of one of these new players on the board that seems to have a conflict of interest because the firm that he's worked with is tied to the valuation of Hulu, which Disney is acquiring. I would have the same question as Jonas J. Campbell and say, isn't this a problem? I mean, if I were Comcast, I'd be trying to say, this doesn't seem quite right. I think any reasonable person would agree. So for now, over the next few days, the weekend, let's say, this is a tale of 2 different narratives that could not be more starkly divided if you tried. And Disney is grasping at some very thin threads of its experienced, again, just not in entertainment, board of directors. And of course, their failed strategic growth initiatives that really haven't done anything. In fact, the company, if in any way, has contracted in every way. And then you have, of course, the opposite side of that, which is Trian, the disruptor that's challenging the status quo, which I would say Disney desperately needs at this point in time. It's time for a shakeup at the top in pursuit of classic greatness once more. And I will use that word one more time, I promise you. So who's got the best narrative here? The winning one. What's the winning path forward? Well, who do you trust to return Disney to its level of greatness? Which of these 2 are actually striving to return Disney to a respected family brand like it once was just not that many years ago, before Iger steered it down a very political path? I think you know the answer to that. And that's the question that we need to ponder over this battle for the heart and soul. As always, as I always say, your thoughts matter here. So what's your take on this particular face-off? Please drop your comments in the comment section down below, and let's dissect this corporate showdown together, because I'm sure you have a lot to add. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya!